Let me tell you something, and don't laugh. Because if you told me 5 years ago I'd end up in a standoff with my own daughter-in-law over a house my mother left me, I would have told you to get out of town. But here I am, 60 and tired, yet stronger than I ever thought I'd need to be, and I figure if you stick around, you might just learn something about standing your ground, especially when the ground itself is all you've got left. So here's what happened. No filter, no sugarcoating. Just the kind of story only life can write. My name's Nadine Whitlow, and I'm not the kind of person to court drama. I run a small property business in Savannah, Georgia. I lost my husband Walter a dozen years back, and that grief, well, it never really left me. It just settled somewhere behind my ribs, heavy but manageable, especially when I looked at my boy Jordan. For years, he was my why, my only family after my mom passed and left me the Charleston house, the old colonial with magnolia trees out front, the porch swing where she'd sit with lemonade and stories about her own mother. That house was more than bricks and wood. It was memory, sweat, love, and history stitched together like grandma's quilt on the banister. When Jordan turned 29 and finally seemed to have both feet under him, a steady job, new ambitions, less of the lost kid I worried about, I handed him the keys to the house. No rent. Just keep it standing, fill it with laughter, bring it to life again, I said. He cried, which nearly broke me. For a minute, it felt like I'd finally done something right in this world. But life, it's got a way of sneaking up and flipping the script just when you're ready to settle in. See, when Jordan brought home Zaria, I wanted to be happy for him. She was smart, beautiful, put together, everything I thought a mother should want for her son. But she moved in fast, almost like she was on a timer, and suddenly everything about the house was up for debate. My mother's quilt disappeared, the rocking chair replaced, even the Thanksgiving table swapped for something shiny and cold. And every time I asked, Jordan just said, "She's got a vision, Mom." Yeah, a vision that didn't seem to include any of us who came before her. Let me back up a sec. Zaria, she never yelled, never threw fits. No, she was too smooth for that. She made me feel like a guest in my own family, politely letting me know my drop-ins weren't welcome, hinting that privacy mattered more than tradition. The kicker came the night I showed up with peach cobbler, and she met me at the door, blocking the entrance with a smile so fake it could have come straight from a magazine. "Oh, you still have a key?" she asked, waving her new engagement ring at me like a flag. That night, for the first time, I felt truly unwelcome in the place I was born. After that, everything changed. My visits got rare, awkward, monitored. Zaria erased every trace of my family's past, right down to the blue curtains my mother had sewn by hand. Even the old hutch my dad refinished, a piece of our soul gone, donated, because it didn't match the new aesthetic. I kept quiet for Jordan's sake, but that uneasy feeling was growing close. Then one afternoon, I dropped by to pick up some documents. The house was silent, cold, stripped of its laughter and warmth. I wandered into what used to be my study, now Zaria's makeup studio, looking for family files, only to discover everything missing. That's when I saw her laptop open to an online listing for my mother's Tiffany lamp. She'd been selling our family, piece by piece, online. My father's medals, the Christmas cutlery, our past, auctioned to strangers. My heart sank through the floor. When Zaria came home, I didn't run. "Where's Jordan?" I asked. "Out," she said, crossing her arms, daring me to challenge her. So I did. I told her I saw the listings. I told her the deed was still in my name, that I had never signed it over, that Jordan was only living here because I loved him, that none of this was hers to give away. She tried to bluff, but the moment Jordan walked in, the whole ugly truth spilled out, her lies, his shame, my heartbreak, all in one messy heap. You ever seen someone's world shatter in real time? That's what happened when Jordan realized what Zaria had done. He tried to defend her, then faltered, then fell silent. And then, as if we needed more drama, the cops showed up. Zaria, desperate, had called them on me. But I handed over the deed, the will, proof of everything, and the officers calmly told her she had no right to the house, no lease, nothing but Jordan's say-so. It was as if a curtain lifted from his eyes. For the first time, my son looked at me and really saw me, saw what had been lost, what needed to be restored. That night, after Zaria packed a bag and left, the silence in the house was thick, but for once, it wasn't angry. It was a pause, a space to begin again. Jordan found an old box of letters and photos from the attic, and we sat up late, piecing together our family, photo by photo, memory by memory. We laughed about the year his dad dropped the turkey, about grandma's stubbornness, about all the little moments that made us us. In that laughter, something started to heal, but Zaria wasn't done. She came back, tried to bully her way in with legal threats and harsh words, telling me she'd save Jordan, that I was the problem. I stood my ground, handed her a letter from my lawyer, explained that she had no claim under Georgia law, no money put in, no deed, no right to anything. She stormed out, promising revenge, but this time, I didn't flinch. Days later, we discovered she'd hidden more of our belongings, keepsakes stuffed in a storage unit under a fake name. With the police, we retrieved what we could: the medals, the quilt, old baby blankets, fragments of a life she'd tried to erase. Jordan watched, tears in his eyes, as we pulled out his childhood photos, bent and battered, but still here. Still us. After all that, we started the real work, restoring not just the house, but ourselves. We painted, rehung photos, put Grandma's quilt back on the stairs. Jordan went to therapy, started designing again, building back the confidence he'd lost. Zaria tried to fight us in court, but her lies and fraud were exposed, and eventually she disappeared for good. Months later, we sat on the porch, sweet tea in hand, fireflies blinking in the dusk. Jordan turned to me and asked, "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you hadn't shown up that day?" I smiled and told him the truth. Things happen when we're ready to face them, and sometimes it takes losing everything to find what matters most. He thanked me for never giving up on him, and I raised my glass to healing, to legacy. We hosted a family dinner not long after, cousins, neighbors, kids running wild through the yard. The house was full again, with love, noise, and memory. No one doubted who belonged there. No one dared erase our past again. So, let me ask you, have you ever had to stand your ground to protect your family, your peace, your history? Because trust me, it's not easy, but it's worth it. If this story hit home, share your thoughts below. Did I do the right thing? What would you have done? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and keep the conversation going, because at the end of the day, a house might just be wood and stone, but a home is built on the courage to protect what matters. You know, sometimes you think a storm's over just because the thunder stops for a minute. That first family dinner in the restored house, sunflowers on the table, laughter in the kitchen, the old porch swing creaking out back, felt like a finish line after months of chaos. But real life, it never gives you the tidy ending you hope for. Sometimes, the past finds its way back, knocking on your door when you least expect it. And let me tell you, the knock that came one wet Saturday morning. Yeah, I still hear it sometimes in my sleep. It had been half a year since Zaria walked out of our lives. Jordan was doing better, therapy, new friends, building a freelance design business from the kitchen table. The house was ours again, smelled like gumbo and lemon balm, full of light, music, and family coming by just to say hey, sometimes just to borrow a cup of sugar and share a laugh. If you've ever rebuilt yourself after a mess, you know what I mean. Life gets sweeter, but you're always half expecting that next shoe to drop. Well, the shoe dropped right into our lap. It started with a letter, tucked between the gas bill and some junk mail. Thick envelope, lawyer's name I didn't recognize, return address out of state. I almost tossed it, but something in my gut told me to open it. Sure enough, Zaria had found a way to haunt us from a distance. Her new attorney was demanding a mediation meeting. She claimed she'd contributed years of unpaid labor and investments into the house, and now that she was unjustly displaced, she was owed either half the property value or a large cash settlement that I'll admit, my hands shook reading it. The nerve, the sheer gall. But Jordan? He just sighed, almost like he'd been expecting something like this. She never lets go, does she? He said, rubbing the back of his neck. No, son, she doesn't. I replied, feeling that old ache flare in my chest again. That we met with our attorney, Ms. Ellis, a sharp, no-nonsense woman in her 60s, whose glasses alone could cut a man in half. She laid it out. Zaria had no legal leg to stand on, but if she pushed the right buttons, dragged us into court, she could cost us months of stress and thousands in legal fees. Mediation was required, just to keep it from getting uglier. Let me paint this picture for you. A gray January day, rain drumming the courthouse windows, me sitting in an ugly conference room across from Zaria for the first time in months. She looked different. Gone was the high polish, the rehearsed smile. She looked tired, almost desperate, eyes darting around the room like she was searching for a way out. She didn't look at me. She didn't look at Jordan. Her lawyer did all the talking, listing all the improvements she'd made, the unpaid work of cleaning, organizing, even redecorating, as if selling family heirlooms counted as sweat equity. I kept quiet, hands folded, waiting. When it was finally my turn, I took a deep breath, locked eyes with the mediator, and told our truth, how Zaria's labor had been erasure, how her investment had been theft, how the only thing she ever built in our house was resentment. That's when the twist happened. Midway through her lawyer's speech, the mediator asked if Zaria could provide proof of any financial contribution or receipts for renovations. She stammered, shuffled papers, but all she produced were receipts for paint, throw pillows, and that glass table I'd already thrown out. The room went quiet, tension thick enough to slice with a butter knife. But just as the mediator was about to end the meeting, Zaria suddenly broke down, voice shaking, tears rolling down her face. She admitted that she'd been struggling for months, couch surfing, alone, and deeply ashamed of what she'd done. She said she'd lost her job, her reputation, even some friends who learned the truth about her online sales. For a moment, I saw her not as an enemy, but as another wounded person, broken by her own choices. Jordan, quiet all this time, finally spoke. "You tried to erase me too," he said softly, "but I'm done letting you control my life. I wish you peace, Zaria, but you can't have this house. Our story moves on without you." The mediator nodded, declared no settlement due, and closed the meeting. Just like that, the last legal thread tying Zaria to our family snapped. We walked out into the rain, not triumphant, but relieved, exhausted. You ever feel that kind of tired? Like you could sleep for a week, but also lighter, like a weight you didn't realize you were carrying finally let go? That was us. Back at home, the healing continued. With the threat gone, Jordan found the courage to join a support group. Other young men who'd survived controlling or manipulative partners. He started speaking at local churches, telling his story to help others recognize emotional abuse. Folks started reaching out, neighbors, friends, even strangers online, sharing their own experiences, asking for advice, offering support. The house, once a battlefield, was now a hub for community and connection. And there was another surprise. One day, a woman knocked on our door, holding a battered shoebox. She was in her 80s, a friend of my late mother's from Charleston. "I heard what happened," she said, pressing the box into my hands. "I found some old photos your mother lent me years ago. Thought you should have them back." Inside, we found black and white snapshots of family picnics, handwritten recipes, even a letter my mother had written to her best friend about the day I was born. That night, as Jordan and I sat on the porch flipping through those treasures, I realized something. Our legacy wasn't just in the things we recovered. It was in the stories we could still tell, the memories that refused to be erased, the love that survived every loss. For the first time in a long while, I felt whole. So, here's what I learned. Sitting on that porch with the crickets singing and the porch light buzzing. Home isn't safe because you lock the door or because you win some paperwork battle. It's safe because you protect it with your voice, your boundaries, your willingness to say no more, not this time. And it's sacred because you fight for it, even when it feels easier to give in. Now let me ask you, have you ever faced a ghost from your past that just wouldn't quit, even after you thought you were free? What did you do? Did you stand your ground, or did you let go? I want to hear your stories, because every family's got a scar, and every home's got a history worth saving. If my story moved you, drop a comment below, share your truth, your victories, your lessons learned. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and come back for more real-life tales about standing up for what's right, even when it's hard, even when it's lonely, especially when it matters. Remember, sometimes healing isn't a finish line, it's just the next chapter. And sometimes The strongest thing you can do is open the door, let the light in, and say, "This is my home, my story, and I'm not backing down."